name is Heido, and welcome back to the Pantheon, where we're entering the second phase of Innistrad. The vampires are back. I don't actually know what this set's called. Crimson Vow? I think that's what it's called. So, without further ado, let's get into the main woman, Olivia, Crimson Bride. And doesn't she look beautiful? Nice flowing purple gown dress thing. 6 mana for a 3/4 vampire noble with flying and haste, so straight away she's going to be getting in for damage. And when she attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire. Exile this creature. Ooh, pretty goddamn good. Nice bit of reanimation. Really, really nice card. You know, quite, expensive 6 mana, but you're getting a lot straight away. And there's no restrictions on what you can reanimate, which is really, really good. So we can get some massive threats onto the field. So please subscribe to my channel. Woohoo! I'm going to be making videos like this for every commander in Crimson Vow. And, sure to be lots of vampires, so come along and join me. But without further ado, let's get into my top 5 for Olivia. And in at number 5, what do we have? Well, we've got ways of making things vampires and having legendary vampires on the field. Because, the thing does, our ability to steal something, it only cares about having a legendary vampire. It doesn't care what legendary vampire. It doesn't have to be our commander. It can be anything. So New Blood is a 4 mana sorcery. It's an additional cost to cast New Blood. Tap and untap vampire you control. So, we're probably going to want to veer into vampires for this, but we're going to have a couple knocking around. Gain control of target creature. Change the text of that creature by replacing all instances of one creature type with vampire. So we can steal our opponent's commanders and make them vampires, which will keep all of our things around for as long as we control their commander. So even if they kill our commander, we're going to keep it around. Similarly, Olivia Voldaron, the original, 4 mana for a 3/3 with flying. It's a vampire legendary. So this in itself, keeps all of our things around. Pay 2 and deals 1 damage to another target creature. That creature becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a 1/1 counter on Olivia. So that can get out of control. When I very first started playing, my friend used to constantly play Olivia and stole my commanders over and over again, because you can pay 6 mana to gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Voldaron. Very similar, works in a similar way to our commander, possibly better, but it is very mana intensive. So you can just steal whatever you want and make them into legendary vampires. Really, really cool. Then there's Captivating Vampire, 3 mana for a 2/2. Other vampire creatures you control get +1/+1. By God, our commander is a 4/5. Ooh. Then you can tap 5 and tap vampires you control. Gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. And that's forever. There's no condition on it like Olivia, so you're not going to lose it. This just makes, whatever we steal into a vampire, which is pretty. And then there's Drana, the Last Blood Chief. 5 mana for a 4/4 vampire cleric with flying, so a legendary vampire there. When it attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card from your graveyard. You return that card to your battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. So yes, it can't get legendary creatures. So we can't make legendary vampires, but it's very similar. Creates vampires on the field to captivate other things with. Then here's another cool assortment of legendary vampires. Drana, 3 mana for a 2/3 vampire ally. First strike and flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control. And that's going to come up a bit later in this list, because we want things that deal damage straight away, because everything's going to be coming in attacking that we bring back with our commander. So we're going to get that trigger on the first strike here. Then there's Baron Sangia, the original, I think. 8 mana for a 5/5 with flying. Whenever a creature deals damage to Baron Sangia, this turn is put into a graveyard. Put a +2/+2 counter on Baron Sangia. The classic +2/+2 counter, used very commonly. Then you can tap to regenerate another target vampire. So this can be used to keep our commander alive, other legendary vampires alive. Pretty cool and fits very well in the theme. Then there's your Henny Undying Pattern, 3 mana 2/2 vampire legendary. It's got haste, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on your Henny. Sacrifice another creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. So this is a nice sticky vampire. That's a very bizarre sentence. I'm sorry, everyone that heard it. And that brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Limdol's Paladin. Now, this is a really bizarre card, but this whole section is about filling your graveyard, because this commander can only bring things back from our graveyard, but we need ways of filling it. And Limdol's Paladin is a fascinating way to do it. And look at that wall of text. So it's a 4 mana 0/3. Ooh, not great. It's got Trample, weird with 0 power. Although, during your upkeep, choose and discard a card from your hand, or bury Limdol's Paladin and draw a card. So this is about sort of filtering through your deck. You know, you can sacrifice this guy to put another card, to draw a card, or you can discard a card, fill your graveyard. Then, if any creatures are assigned to block it, Limdol's Paladin gets +6/+3 until end of turn. So it becomes a 6/6 trampler. So, you know, if we're swinging in, it's going to be a 6/3 trampler when they block it. But wait, there's more. When it attacks and is not blocked, it deals no damage to defending player this turn, and that player loses 4 life. It's just such a weird combination of things, but it works well because you can just have it sitting there, sacrifice it during upkeep to draw a card, then with our commander attack, bring it back to the field, attacking. Oh, there's just so many cool ways you can use it. Then there's Liliana the Last Hope, 3 mana for a 3 loyalty planeswalker, +1. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. Really good for removing, you know, really annoyingly small creatures. You know, you just go, bleh. It's dead. Then -2, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Excellent for rebuying, and the main reason I'd play this card. Then there's -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is 2+ the number of zombies you control. So this can just get out of hand. Absolutely wonderful. Then there's Maya Triton, 2 mana for a 2/1 with Death Touch. So that's pretty good. It's going to block exceptional round. When it's attacking in, are people really going to want to block it? Then when it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards and you gain 2 life. So you're filling up the graveyard with potential hits from our commander. Then on the vampire theme, there's Insolent Neonate. 1 red. This is just such a streamlined version of Limdol's Paladin. It's got Menace to 1/1, discard a card and sacrifice it to draw a card. Woohoo! So we can just get things into our graveyard, get this into our graveyard, so we can potentially bring it back, then sacrifice it again. Because the cool thing about this commander's ability is it's only if the legendary vampire leaves that we would exile the card. And that will come up in a bit. So you can sacrifice things and stuff like that. Then here's a couple of spells that you want to put in the deck. Electric Revelation from the brand new set. 3 mana instant as additional cost to cast a spell. Discard a card. So we're putting things into the graveyard. Draw 2 cards and then you can flash it back for 4 mana. Excellent, excellent card. Then there's Cathartic Reunion. 2 mana for a sorcery. Additional cost to cast a spell. Discard 2 cards. So filling up the graveyard with tons of lovely goodies. Draw 3 cards. Ooh. That's pretty good, I'd say. Then there's Faithless Looting, technically card advantage, but still ridiculously insane. 1 red for a sorcery, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Flash it back for 3 mana, so you get to cast it from your graveyard a second time. Amazing, amazing card. There's a reason it's banned in Modern. And as I was just talking about, we want to be able to get things back. And if they sacrifice themselves or we sacrifice them to something, they will go straight to our graveyard. So next turn, we can get them back again. Plaguecrafter is the best version of this. 3 mana for a 3/2. When it's the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So when we sacrifice something, we want to sacrifice itself. It'll go to the graveyard and then it'll sit there waiting to be reanimated again. Amazing card. Amazing. It just works so, so well. Demon's Disciple, exactly the same thing. 3 mana, 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Bing, bang, bosh. You know exactly what you're getting. You're controlling the board. Your opponents will be utterly miserable. Then, this is similar, but it's a cool sort of reanimation card, and it's a creature. 4 mana for a Crypt Champion. It's a 2/2 with double strike. When it comes into play, each player puts a creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from his or her graveyard into play. So we can get one of these Demon's Disciples or Flashback Roaders back. They sacrifice theirs. Oh, big bahuri. And when it comes into play, sacrifice it unless red was spent to play it. So if we bring this back with our commander, it will die straight away. You know, if we've got things on the field which trigger on death, well, this is a phenomenal card for the deck. Then there's Flashback Road. This artwork, some of the best artwork in Magic. I love it to pieces. 3 mana, 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So sacrifice itself, we can use it again and again and again. Then on the sacrifice theme, here we've got Anawan, the Roon Sage. 5 mana for a 4/3 vampire legendary. So works with our commander's sort of clause. It's Halloween, not Christmas. Why am I talking about claws? Christ. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Really, really good. And, you know, if you want to really build into the vampire sort of theme, it's brilliant. Then the Shieldred Whispering One. 7 mana for a 6/6 creator with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So very similar to our commander, works on that same sort of axis. And, you know, yes, it doesn't get haste, but we're rebuilding our army. And then at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So we're crippling our opponents, taking away their resources. Finally, we've got Call to the Grave. 7 mana, 5 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-zombie creature. So I'd be going into vampires here, but still we want to apply that pressure and force our opponents to sacrifice things. At the beginning of the game step, if no creatures are on the battlefield, sacrifice this. Oh dear, what a disaster. That brings me on to number 2. And number 2, I alluded to it earlier, this is all about dealing combat damage because the creatures that we get back are tapped and attacking. So we can get some cool effects like Port Razor. 5 mana for a 4/4 Orc Pirate. When it deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Port Razor can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn. So this is fantastic because extra combat steps are just insane with this commander because each time we attack, we get to get another creature back. So if the first one's Port Razor, deals damage, we untap everything, attack again, deals damage, untap again, and we're just reanimating so many things. And that's a big theme of this deck, I'd say, taking extra combat steps. Scourge of the Throne is a slightly worse version of this. 6 mana 5/5 with flying and dethrone. So when this creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, put a 1/1 counter on it. Hooray! And then when it attacks for the first time each turn, if it's attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most life, untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Now, something to mention about Scourge of the Throne and Hellcat Charger. When you reanimate them with Olivia, you cannot use that ability because they need to attack. They come in after they've attacked, so they're attacking. So you have to get these back onto the field or, you know, get them in with haste, swing at them. Swing, so you declare them, and we get the extra combat steps. But we can just, you know, if they die, you know, things generally do die in Magic, we can get them back. Yes, we don't get the extra combat step this turn, but we can go to our next turn and then get it then. So really, really nice inclusion. Hellcat Charger, very similar. 6 mana 5/5 flying haste. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 7. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there's additional combat phase. Ooh. Yeah, really nice. Then Morag, Fury of Okun. 6 mana, 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1 so for each time it's attacked this turn. So that, with all these cards, is phenomenal. But then, Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of the combat, untap all creatures you control. So, with our commander reanimating this, we go to our second main phase, we play a land, and then we get a combat phase after that, which is pretty good. I like it. I like extra combat. I like extra stuff. And then here, you know, I had to include something with cycling, I love the mechanic, but it also has an on deals damage trigger. Scion of Darkness, 8 mana 6/6 with trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So if you're forcing everyone to sacrifice all the creatures, this can reanimate one of their best ones. Then there's a Rapacious one, 6 mana 5/4 with trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put that many 0/1 colors Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrificed this creature. Add a colors or generic. I can't remember the updated rules, but you get a mana, so it creates a bunch of tokens that are also mana docs. Really, really cool. And all of these, the big things that we want to reanimate with our commander. Balefire Dragon, 7 mana 6/6 with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. Board wipe on a stick. Insane card. And then at number 1, we've got things that enter the battlefield and have a big effect, like Patron of the Vein. Unfortunately, this card's just spiked massively because, you know, we're now in Vampire World. 6 mana for a 4/4 Vampire. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it and put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. This is insane, especially with all the sacrifice shenanigans we've got going on. This can just make your army absolutely massive. It removes the biggest threat on the board, and it makes everything into a threat itself. Then there's Combustible Gearhulk on the sort of mill plan, and also card advantage and damage, and it's a 6/6. 6 mana 6/6 with first strike. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If that player doesn't, you mill 3 cards. Then Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total mana value of those cards. So absolutely wonderful. You could potentially kill some people. And because this is a reanimated deck, you're going to be playing a lot of very large creatures. So you're going to have a lot of CMC to throw at someone's face. Then there's Burning Roon Demon, 6 mana 6/6 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards, not named Burning Roon Demon, that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of them. You choose the chosen card into your hand, the other into your graveyard. So this is a tutor to your hand and your graveyard. You can give your opponent 2 terrible choices, and they're just like, I guess you have this. This goes to the graveyard. You reanimate it straight away with your commander. Amazing card for the deck. And then we've got Archon of Cruelty. 8 mana for a 6/6 Archon. Flying, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent, sacrifice a creature or planeswalker, discards a card and loses 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life. The fact that it's target opponent, it is a little bit mean, but we want to win games. You know, annoying people and making them quit is indeed a way to win games. Not a way to win friends, though, as I've found in the past. And those are my top 5 cards for Olivia. Really quite a cool commander. I wish she was a bit cheaper. 6 mana is steep, but you do get a nice effect straight away because of the haste. I think she's really good. I'm impressed with her. I like her. I'd take her out on a date. I'd feed her grapes off the vine. I don't know where I'm going with it. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.